Hello everyone, I'm Nini FC from Blue Lions TV. Welcome to another match review of our 2-0 win over Bournemouth. And yeah, we were the just deserved winners in the end. Bournemouth made it very, very hard for us. But I think that Sarri, again, I'm noticing this guy's making the right substitutions and the right tactical changes in the second half. They're very subtle, but I'm going to explain to you what those changes exactly are. I'm going to be talking about guys like Giroud, the impact he had. I'm going to be talking about PEDRO on top of that as well. I'm going to be talking about the struggles we're facing against these deep low block teams. And I'm going to be talking about Eddie Howe for a tiny bit as well, because again, you know, I need to take the L on this. I used to think he was a bit overrated, etc., etc. But I mean, the guy really is, you know, a very good manager. But enough of that, getting straight into the match review, starting with the lineup. And the lineup is the exact same that we have been seeing. As I've been saying in so many videos, we're going to use that same lineup to really get that consistency tactically, because Sarri obviously wants his team to get better quickly. And it's understandable, but again, you know, starting with the first half, and I saw Bournemouth using their back five system in the match preview. I was debating whether we're going to stick with the 4-4-2, which they've been very good at in the early start of the season. They decided to use a five in the back system, made a lot of sense. And I'm going to talk about Eddie Howe for a tiny bit now, because again, you guys, you know Eddie Howe, I said in the match preview as well. Eddie Howe actually went to visit Sarri when he was the manager of Empoli 4 years ago. Eddie Howe went there because he was thinking, you know what, I'm seeing what this guy's doing at Empoli. They're playing very well. Tactically, they're very solid as well. Let me actually go out there, see him. Obviously, Sarri told him to come through. They were hanging out for a bit, learn a lot, and have a very good relationship. And it's no surprise why Sarri rates him very highly. And I can kind of see why Eddie Howe really likes Sarri a lot, because I'm looking at how fluid they change their formations and systems all the time. I mean, you know, Bournemouth were easily interchangeable between a 3-4-3 when they're trying to press us high in their own half and trying to attack. They easily moved back to a 5-4-1, and they're also using a 5-3-2 at times when King would move closer to Wilson. And they were trying to get in behind us and trying to stretch us out a bit. And it was very, very seamless, very fluid. And this is why Bournemouth were very hard to break down in this game today. And you've got to think about this, you guys. You know, you look at the individual players they have at Bournemouth, they're not really as good in terms of the system they're playing, but look how well they do in it regardless. And it just lets you know just how good of a manager Eddie Howe is. And it's no surprise why he's respected very highly in this country and when it comes to managers abroad as well. But that's enough of me talking about Eddie Howe. I know you guys don't want to hear about that. I thought there'd be some nice insights to discuss with you guys. But moving on to us, and again, you know, Bournemouth making it very, very difficult. Now, again, I was saying that they were going to try and press us high at times, which they did do, you know. King would try and man-mark Rudiger, and then obviously you'd have other guys pushing up as well to stop Jorginho, make his life a bit harder, stop Luiz as well. But Sarri did one thing in this game to try and counter against that, because with Wilson, his form's been very good at the start of the season. He's a very dangerous striker. He's able to play across the lines. He can obviously move into the channels as well. So what Sarri did to try and help combat against Wilson and to really minimise impact in this game was to tell Kante to drop a bit deeper. And every time you were actually kicking off a game, you could see that Kante's positioning was a bit deeper along with Rudiger or David Luiz. But yeah, at the end of the day, Bournemouth weren't really doing as much as they were doing last season when they did beat us 3-0 at home. And that's because they didn't really care about us really playing out from the back. What Bournemouth were doing, which was exactly the same as what Newcastle were doing, was they wanted to keep that shape in the middle. They wanted to be very compact. They wanted us to play around them. Because you guys, you know, I've been explaining it so many times. You want to try and stop Chelsea from playing in them channels, playing between the lines and playing in the half space on top of that as well. And they did a very, very good job at doing that, and it was very, very difficult to play through that. Now, of course, we did capitalise on individual mistakes at times, but it was very rare. I thought that Lemmer, the guy they signed from Levante, was very good in playing in midfield as well. But again, it was Eddie Howe. Tactically, the players were just on point and they knew what positions to move into to deal with any type of danger. And it was really, really frustrating. But you guys, I'm actually going to stop talking about the first half because there really wasn't much to talk about. I thought the second half was much more interesting tactically. And again, Sarri makes one change in the second half to try and create more space between the lines so we can obviously try and break down Bournemouth and ruin their defensive positioning. And what he did was he moved Eden Hazard out wide to the left-hand side. By moving Hazard out wide, he wanted to try and draw out some Bournemouth players. Again, you know, anytime Hazard's on the ball, you need to put two players on Eden Hazard at all times because, again, this guy can beat you like it's nothing. The guy is press resistant as well. You just can't get the ball off from him. And again, by actually moving him out wide, that allowed Marcus Alonso to make them runs inside the box when he needed to. And that helped to try and stretch the play a bit more and help us try and create more, obviously, openings in the middle of the pitch. and it was working at times. Now, of course, I need to talk about Morata for a second now. People will be saying, Morata didn't have much influence, he wasn't on the ball as much. It's understandable, but using him as a poacher, it's not about your build-up play or dropping deep and you're playing as a poacher. It's about your movement. But of course, it's really kind of impossible for Morata in that sense when you've got a Bournemouth team that are very compact and congested, essentially, the back five, the midfield four in front of them with Wilson dropping even deeper as well. Most times it was just 10 men behind the ball, which was just crazy to break down. But there was one part of Morata's game that wasn't really benefiting us that much, and that's the fact that there was no aerial presence. When he had to keep possession of the ball, he wasn't able to do that. It's understandable at times because Morata just isn't that type of striker, let's be serious, so it was a bit frustrating in that sense. But I think that's when the first important substitution did come in the game, and that was Olivier Giroud. Now again, with Olivier Giroud, I might sound harsh, it's not as if the guy's a world-class striker, let's be serious, but he provided a different option, and that was the fact that he was able to win those aerial balls. And because he was able to win those aerial balls, it meant that he could sustain the play a bit better. And obviously, there was more link-up play between guys like Hazard, Kovacic, and Willian as well. And it really helped improve our build-up play. And again, having that aerial threat where he kept winning most of these balls on top of that as well was really, it was giving Bournemouth something to worry about. And it was just very good when it came down to that. And then another key substitution was made. That was Pedro. Now, you guys, my thoughts on Pedro. I felt that, under Mourinho and under Conte, I've never been too impressed with him. But I've always said the reason why I kind of understand the context behind his performances is down to the fact that obviously Pedro isn't really a winger. Pedro is that Raudamita, so he's that inside forward that does play as an not advanced forward, he plays as a wide forward. So his game is to be very high up the pitch, where he relies on his movement and his close control. And again, a manager like Sarri, where the system really suits what Pedro does, it's a massive difference. And I really feel that Pedro has really, really benefited from that. And his impact was very good. And what was his impact? His impact was he had a left foot, so when he was cutting inside, he didn't have to do what Willian normally does. And Willian normally does this, when the ball's coming to him, he's got to turn like this all the time. It's a bit unfortunate he doesn't have a left foot. But this is why I keep stressing that if we had someone on the right that does have a left foot, it makes a massive difference because it helps speed up the play. And of course, when your attacking players are playing to their stronger foot, it's only going to make you more dangerous in the final third. And I think that's what Pedro was definitely able to do. And again, the goal he scored, it was an amazing goal. I was cheering so hard. Incredible goal. I mean, just the build-up play. It was definitely one of the goals of the week, in my opinion. Probably the best team goal so far this season. The quick 1-2 pass with Giroud, Hazard, Pedro. Pedro obviously collecting the ball and then creating that opening for himself. So then obviously hit the ball, right foot, bottom left corner. Fantastic goal. And again, that really just changed the whole dimension and complexion of the game because, again, I keep saying again too much, you guys, I know, I apologise. But by doing that, that meant that Bournemouth had to open up a bit more. They couldn't rely to play the same way. And of course, when you do open up against how we're playing under Sarri right now, it's going to cause you issues, it's going to cause you problems. And again, you're just seeing the impact that Hazard was having even more. I mean, I thought he was good in the game, but the fact that there was more space for guys like that to play in those holes, to play in the half space, to play between the lines, Bournemouth weren't able to do much. Of course, Eddie Howe tried to change things. When you're a goal down, you need to try and get something from the game. He's a positive manager at the end of the day, even though they play very defensively, which is understandable playing against this type of opposition. But again, with Bournemouth, by them pushing up higher, you can see that their back five push to the halfway line as well. You're making a big mistake when it comes to us playing on the counter-attack. And again, it was no surprise that the second goal was coming. And there was an expertly taken and finished goal by Eden Hazard. Great link-up play with him and Ruben. I thought when Ruben came on, his introduction was actually very positive. I've got to keep saying, I really don't understand this whole thing about Ruben being lazy. I think in itself, that's a bit of a lazy criticism because you're just really missing out on a lot of context and you're actually looking at the wrong thing when you're criticising this guy, I think, already. The way he drives with the ball, attacks the spaces, his link-up play, good passes on top of that as well. It's good that Sarri actually played him. Sarri was saying the whole thing with Ruben is the fact that he's not really used to the tactical side of what he expects of him just yet, which is understandable in that sense. But again, the fact that he was on the bench in the last game, he played over Barkley here. I'm sure that Sarri must have taken notice that Ruben was called up to the England team on top of that as well. again, Sarri rates the guy. Let's see what Ruben can do. But it was a nice cameo from Ruben Loftus-Cheek, and let's hope that he does get more of them and his season can really progress this year. Again, we've got the Europa League coming up. There's going to be a lot of opportunities to play, so that's going to be good. But again, 2-0 at the end. It was a great win. I thought that we really controlled the game. And when you really just contrast how we lost to Bournemouth 3-0 under Conte to this game, that's what you need to do. You know, you look at Bournemouth last season, they're pressing us high, they're stopping us from playing out from the back. They're really trying to close down the spaces, keeping the ball against us as well, forcing us back because Conte likes us to be very passive and very pragmatic and really just, you know, pick our moments to play on the counter-attack. You have to play like we do under Sarri against these types of teams because they do have a threat. The Premier League is a much stronger league than it ever has been over the past few years. And you can be punished, as we saw last season, against teams like Bournemouth, Watford, Palace, Newcastle. I can go on. So it is good to see. And remember this point. It's the system and our tactical setup. This has given us a greater dimension in our play. Having that control in the game is important these days. You know, you look at how football's actually going. You see teams like Bournemouth where they'll happily give you 75% of the ball. Now, back in the day, when teams used to defend on the counter-attack, it used to be 40% possession, sometimes 35%. Now teams don't care at all about what they do with the ball. It's all about keeping their shape and not leaving any openings in the middle. And this is why it doesn't really matter about really focusing on that defensive side as much. Having control of the game is much more beneficial and important. And it really gave us that advantage and edge today because we were able to keep that momentum and just sustain that pressure on Bournemouth. Over time, they're only going to mess up in the end, and we capitalised on that. It was a very, very good, promising performance. And yeah, it was great to see a great 2-0 win. You guys, that's going to end the match with you. In the comments section below, let me know your thoughts and opinions. What players stood out for you? What did you think about how we played? Do you think that we just passed the ball unnecessarily? How do you think about how we're progressing under Sarri as well? And you guys, don't forget as well, if you want to help me out, if you want to help support the channel as well, in the description below is going to be a link to the One Football app. If you want to help me out a lot, every download from you guys is tracked. So the more downloads I get, the more times it gets tracked, the more it's going to help me out. I want to try and get another campaign for next month. So you guys help me achieve that dream. Thank you guys for watching. I'm Nini FC. This is Blue Lines TV. Signing out.